was unsafe, and that 5 years ago, that's why the rhinos are wiped out. And what it means to have them back is that the security has now been secured, security for both wildlife, security for the residents, security for our livestock, and that's essentially why they're back.
It's the only Rhino sanctuary in East Africa that is run by a community. It's owned, managed, run entirely by a local community on community land, which makes it completely unique. Currently supporting 35 community conservatives across 10 countries in the country, bringing about 4,000 square kilometers into conservation. Security threats we've continued to experience in this landscape. One majorly has been
quite serious. The biggest strength for the Northern Regional Trust of Iran is that the organization was formed by the local communities and is being run and owned by the local communities through the Council of Elders, and they're quite multi-ethnic. What we are trying to do is to ensure that with the wildlife that we have here, the community can own. We are trying to change the negative attitude so that they can promote wildlife. They can see this is their wildlife. I'm not my wildlife. I'm not NRT wildlife. I'm not government wildlife. So we want the community to have that ownership in their heart, so they cannot allow poachers to hide within them and poach wildlife.
So it gives you a touch of the country, the culture, the diversity, the issues, the people. Let me walk you through a little bit how this works. Why communities? It's about space and politics. In Kenya, in northern Kenya, where we're working, there's only 4 protected areas, 7,500 elephants. These protected areas are simply not big enough to cater for the elephants that are there. And yet, the community space there can multiply those protected areas 20-fold. It's simply an untapped conservation opportunity for all of us, and more than anything, for elephants. And then politics. We hear so much about the negative politics of elephants. Here there's a wonderful opportunity for some positive politics for elephants. People are being employed, tourism is coming, taxes are being paid, the country is safer. Suddenly these elephants are doing something good for people, and those people are going to elect their politicians. And those politicians are going to listen carefully to the people that are talking about wildlife. And so, for me, this is a massive opportunity that we as conservationists perhaps have been missing. Perhaps we're lucky in Kenya to have this space of arid land with elephant in it and good tourism to work into that space. And also, it's a new sector for conservation. If you think about it, certainly in my generation, it was protected areas, it was national parks, it was government. Southern Africa, you had private sector growing. East Africa slowly, some of East Africa, Kenya more than anywhere, you had a small private sector. But there was never a community sector that came to the table as an equal. Now suddenly, through this NRT, there is a community sector. It is a voice in Parliament. It is a voice in these forums. And so it's simply an untapped source of energy for conservation. And then just begs me the question, we can never really take conservation to scale unless we incorporate communities. After all, I'm sure this is going to be the discussion. Debbie touched on it at the beginning. And so for me, this is the opportunity that we've missed, the door that we've opened, and what NRT has managed to achieve. The historic challenges,
they're massive. This hasn't been an easy road. Tom, my CEO, touched on some of it. Northern Kenya borders with Somalia, with Ethiopia. There's, I think, 16 different ethnic groups within northern Kenya. There's some deep historical conflict and ethnic conflict between those communities. You know, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, everybody had spears. Come in the 90s, there was a proliferation of firearms, just abundant firearms coming through from Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan. So suddenly everybody that had a spear now has got an AK-47. Stock theft, which is actually cultural. I go and steal your cattle to prove my manhood. I get away with my cattle, bring them back, so you retaliate, so you kill me, I kill you. And this retaliatory response to stock theft is one of the biggest and most complex issues that we have to work with. And now on top of that, you put firearms. And you can see the multiplying effect that we're working into. And then, of course, the rampant poaching. Take into account Kenya's rhino went from 20,000 to 200 in a mere 13 years. When they finished the rhino, these poachers just moved on to the elephant. So that combination was the environment that we're trying to promote this conservation into. So where did we start, and what is NRT? I work for the private sector. I was sourcing money from different avenues across the world. We had charities in the UK, Switzerland, UK. But Labour was too private sector. I couldn't go to World Bank, couldn't go to USAID, and raise the level of money that we needed to fund community conservation. It was all based on private philanthropy. So we thought, we'd done well with the security on Labour, on the rhino. The communities there are benefiting, tourism is working, conservation is working. Why can't we multiply the boundary of Labour into a national movement? What if we brought communities together into an organization that was transparent, credible, well-governed, that could access big bilateral, multilateral funding? 2004 we did that, and it's been the most extraordinary success in terms of the donors see their money hitting the ground. There's not a sort of big catch net in between that filters this money that they issue, hits the community, it's building schools and water and bringing security. How did this happen? You've got 10,000 people, it's a community, they're one ethnic group. How do we bring them into a cohesive organization to do business, the business of conservation? And it's forming a conservancy. Conservancy is a corporate body, just a company, in our case a not-for-profit company, has a board of directors. They're appointed and elected by the community to represent them for 3 years. The rotation of that leadership is absolutely key because things happen. And so you need the community to have the capacity to roll over the leadership of the conservancy. So now you've got a corporate body, you've got a board. Don't forget levels of education here are really low. So you've got board members that might not have even gone to school. And they're talking about a $200,000, $250,000 budget with audits and all the governance processes around it. So it's a very fast learning curve. And that's where NRT comes in to help with the training and to arbitrate and sort of bridge that gap. We've got our corporate body, we've got our board, needs funding. That's NRT's role now to go and source this funding. Then, with the funding in place, we need a headquarters. This organization needs a face. You can't have a conservancy without a headquarters. So, construction of a headquarters, purchase of a vehicle, putting in a radio system, recruiting rangers, training rangers, putting in uniforms. Suddenly you've got a conservancy like the rest of the world, which is 100% community owned and governed. The chair people of all those conservancies make up the senior body that controls NRT. And so I'm an employee of NRT. I work for that council of elders, which is made up by these different conservancy chairmen. The focus of this, good governance. If the governance is right, if the money is well cared for, if the processes are in place for transparent information to pass back to the wider community, we've now got a foundation to do good things. Peace. I explain a little bit the sort of history of some of the issues that northern Kenya has. What we found, and none of us can put our finger on it, is that you've got these forums of conservancies. And as soon as you've got communities speaking as equals, they can influence the peace. And it's had a transformational impact across northern Kenya, the impact of these conservancies, to a point where tourism 10 years ago was unthinkable. And now it's high on the agenda. Security, put a lot of effort into security, abundant firearms, guns and elephants go together. Of course, there's criminals within society. So our challenge has been to turn those firearms into doing good instead of doing bad. And because the community own the process, this has been successful. And then, of course, the rangelands. We are working in a marine environment, we're working in forestries, we're working in grasslands, and this has to be sustainable. With climate change, with all the issues that we're seeing, it's a reality. This land is eroded, people have got too much livestock for what's available on the land. So we have a real challenge on the actual environmental sustainability within this landscape. And then enterprises. This has been funded very generously, mainly by USAID, the French Development Bank, by international bilateral funding agencies. But of course, they're going to run out of steam, and they need to change as things move forward. And so, what's going to sustain these conservancies when that money is gone? I'll come on to that. And then, why do I get up in the morning? It's about wildlife. And this is wonderful wildlife country, wonderful habitat. And so we just need to make that linkage between wildlife and these other development issues that are happening. The growth of this started in 1990, lower. Initially, we were cautious, we didn't have the money, we didn't have the confidence really to step out into the community and say, why don't we conserve as equal? You've got land on one side of the fence, we've got it on this side of the fence, same land, same rainfall, same soil, why don't we do the same thing? As we grew confident, as this model evolved, it's grown extraordinarily fast. NRT started in 2004, just over 4,000 square kilometers, and it's just grown 2009, 14,000, 2012, 23,000, today 42,000. Now that's bigger than all of the national parks, all the protected areas in Kenya put together. And the latent potential of this is extraordinary. All this area here has conservation potential. All this area on the Uganda border has conservation potential. Obviously you've got the Mara and all the established historical conservation areas here. And then this area down by the coast. So the potential is there for this to double through this model. So what are the successes that we've achieved over those 15 years? We've now got 39 conservancies of these corporate bodies working. We're working across 18 different ethnic groups. We've got 4.5 million hectares in conservation, in community conservation. 70 peace ambassadors. Peace ambassadors are elders, men and women that are selected or appointed within their communities and champion peace between these different conflicted communities. 5 rapid response teams, that's what IEF supports, I'll come on to it now. 768 conservancy ranges, so that's in the individual conservancies. So over 1,200 people employed in conservation so far. We're here as elephant conservationists, and when we stepped into this, elephant poaching was round. I'll come on to the details of it, but we've got various layers of anti-poaching, of stopping poaching. Of course, the communities themselves are intelligence. They pass intelligence back, they know exactly what's going on, they know who the criminals are, they know who the people within their society and their community are doing these activities. So each conservancy has its own ranges, anything from 20 to 40 ranges. They're trained by government, some of them are armed by government. NRT has a training team that visits each conservancy twice a year. That's training on standard operating procedures, just basic drill, cleanliness, community relationships, the simple nuts and bolts of being a ranger within the conservancy. Then there's a VHF, digital VHS system that covers the whole of NRT, as it feeds back into a central joint operations center, and that's 24/7. So the conservancy rangers on patrol see something, they would call their headquarters, that headquarters passes it back to Lewa. Lewa shares that instantly with Kenya Wildlife Service and with the police. So where previously it was a vacuum, now there's an instant knowledge on what's going on the ground. So a big part of this is the local ownership. These are all rangers coming out of their homes are there, their families are there. And so the beneficiaries of one ranger, we estimate between 5 and 7 people are benefiting from that ranger. So you've got an enormous constituency of positive support growing out of the conservancy model. The mobile teams, this is the front edge of protecting elephants. We have 5 teams. Each team is 12 men. They're chosen on a very intense selection process where from the individual conservancies. So the pick of the rangers within the community conservancies comes through as NRT employees and are put into these 12-man teams. They're multi-ethnic, so you've got Borana working with Somalis, working with Samburu, working with Rendili, and where historically they were enemies, they're now friends. They're now colleagues in a common cause. And what's special about this, is that it's like soft policing. It's not a hard anti-poaching force. Yes, it can be hard, they're trained, they're legally enabled to do it through Kenya Police Reserve status. But they're talking to members of their own family and their own mother tongue, so it opens the door at a whole different level that government would not necessarily be able to do. And of course behind them, they've got the conventional law enforcement agencies. They're deployed on a geographical basis. We know where the hotspots are. Road banditry has been a big problem. So guys with guns, stopping vehicles on roads, robbing passengers, money, loss of life. It hasn't been great over the last 15 years. This is improving every year. And it's improving because of these teams, because they're working with the police, and because the community completely aligned with the benefits of what comes out of it. It literally, they live in their vehicles, so they can be deployed for up to 2 weeks at a time. They can take water, food, fuel. They can be away for 2 weeks at a time. They're all got satellite trackers on the vehicles. So if we have an incident, the management team, the NRT security management team go into the job, show you some pictures of it. They're managing the incident, they see where the incident is, they see where all the teams are, they've got communications with the team. So you're building a geographical picture in a room like this of a whole incident. The deterrent effect on that has been quite extreme. Because of course, poachers don't understand it, there's this mystery of Lewa, people are watching it from a distance, and it's had a massive deterrent effect on the numbers. We do a lot of elephant collaring with Save the Elephant. We've got over 50 elephant collared. These are animals that are strategically chosen to give us the information of when they move into the most vulnerable areas. Don't forget, we're talking about no fences and animals that can move 200-300 kilometers based on the rainfall. So these animals, like now it started raining in the last week. We saw them before the rain starting to congregate. We've seen them starting to move. We've got a really good idea where these animals are going. But the rain can fall differently in different areas. And these teams are then deployed based on the knowledge that we're picking up from these colonies. And a team, the elephant will grow into groups, 300, 400, 500 at a time, even more. And the team literally will go and set themselves in where that concentration is and stay there until the surface water dries up. This is the job. This is technology that we developed with Vulcan. It's now sort of moving, I'm sure people in here are using it. It's an extraordinary tool for us at a senior level to be able to know what's going on. So every elephant is showing on these screens if we need it. Every incident is reported instantly into the job. It's geographically positioned. It's reported automatically to a whole series of government agencies. It's reported to senior management automatically. So elephant shot, firearms involved, this is the location. Instantly there's 20 people that have knowledge on it. There might be a gang sighted. It's a lower key, a different level of people are informed. As the incident evolves, information continues to come in on each incident, and eventually you end up with an incident report with photographs, and then the intelligence that feeds into that is all plugged into this same program. So what have we achieved? 2012, we lost 122 elephants within the NRT poached. And obviously many more wounded, many calves lost. Those were the numbers of carcasses that we found. In 2018, we lost 3. So far this year, we've lost 2. Now, this isn't just the NRT and just the rangers and just government. Of course, it's the ivory bands across the world. It's the value of ivory has dropped significantly in the last 5 years. But that in combination with this community engagement has reduced elephant poaching within northern Kenya by 97%. So we're doing well for elephant, we're doing well for money, we're doing well with the politics, people are being employed, we've got a growing fraternity of pro-conservation people in northern Kenya. But if the money runs out, what are we leaving behind us? And I was amazed to hear Sean just say there's 22,000 beds within 100 kilometers of where we're all sitting in 2 million hectares. NRT has 100 beds in 4.5 million hectares. So the latent potential here over the next 20, 30 years to support this initiative is quite extraordinary. Average tourist bed within a community conservancy generates $12,500. The tourism there is booming. Last year it went up by 33%. Last year we generated just on $900,000. This year my guess is it'll be a little over $1 million. When I say we, that's the communities. So what we're doing is we're just touching the very edge of the tourist potential to sustain this model. Certainly our hope, just like Sean was talking here, the history of Bella Bella and how wildlife has been transformational in land usage. I believe the same thing is just a seed being sown to initiate the same thing in northern Kenya. So what are the lessons? We've learned a lot of lessons. For me, the biggest thing is the strength of partnership. We couldn't do this alone. NRT is a fraternity of like-minded people who get up every morning committed to see this organization better. Better for wildlife, better for people, better for Kenya. We've managed to recruit like-minded people within government. Government likes us. We're doing government's job. We're making the government's job easier. We're paying taxes. We're providing employment. So there's a lot of good things for government, good reasons for them to support us. NGOs. Historically, NGOs had their projects. They invested in AWS in the national parks. It's a 3-year cycle, a 5-year cycle to do something. Now they suddenly see, here's a new sector, a like-minded fraternity based on conservation that is here forever. And so we're getting more and more NGO partnerships that are coming behind us. The private sector. I come from a private sector. The private sector tends to look at neighbours as CSR. Let's build a capital, let's provide some water. Let's be nice to our neighbours. But actually, there's something new in here, and it's about partnering as equals. I'm seeing that more and more now within the private sector in Kenya. that they're getting away from just building schools, but incorporating the thinking and the whole philosophy behind it into their management. And the zoos. NAM's always had a very strong relationship with the zoo community, and I think we're increasingly seeing an appetite within the zoos to reach out into field conservation. And you know, I'd like to make some special reference here to St. Louis Zoo, has had a strong historical relationship with Lewa and with curly zebra and various species, and with San Diego Zoo, and we're now working very closely on a whole multiplicity of skill sets, of not just financial support, exchanging staff, new thinking, and it was again a door that we'd never knocked on. So the lesson here is about partnerships. It's not a single entity, it's all of us coming together with different skills. The continuity of highs and lows, this is a big thing. You know, life doesn't throw up good things every day. And we as NRT, we're partnered with communities and things happen. And we run out of money, the community has some issue. We as NRT need to be there through the highs and the lows, through the goods and the bads. And we're seen as that, and that's building a trust that now I see is going to endure way beyond all the founders of this organization. Training. I mentioned, you know, we're stepping into an environment where people don't know about audit. They don't know about fiscal responsibility at a corporate level. This is all new language. We're taking rangers that have come off their cattle herd, as cattle herders just looking after their own livestock, and we're throwing them into armed conflict. Our 5 teams that I talked of, we probably have an armed conflict once a week, or they are involved in an armed contact every week. So then they need to be trained. Medical, their own welfare, human rights, all the issues that come with firearms and rangers and armed connections. Training and hospitality. We're taking community members off their cattle and expecting them to work in lodges, in first world, you know, hosting first world tourist expectations. It's a very fast learning curve. And then, how are we going to change the narrative around conservation? We're about elephant, I'm about rhino. But I'm seeing more and more, I can't just save a Hirola or a single species. I need to make that species valuable to the person who owns that land where that animal needs to live. So I need to impact their everyday welfare. I need to be important to them in their everyday life. And then the society that we work, this is healthcare. Healthcare is a government, national government responsibility. We can easily raise money to build cares. We can easily partner with healthcare providers across the world, come and join hands and train and enable healthcare to be provided at a much more relevant, modern level. And we're doing that. So suddenly the Conservancy is funding a health clinic with a maternity wing. We've touched the whole of society. We've really suddenly made those elements relevant to everybody. Same with education. You see schools, collapsed schools, no roofs, no teachers' houses, no water. The education system across northern Kenya is pretty sad. We can change that. There are donors across the world that we have access to who willingly build a school, who willingly help a teacher have a better house. And so this again is changing everything. And clean water. If you see the water that some of these communities are living, we can do a lot better. And so healthcare, education, water are all issues where we're increasingly putting focus on through the Conservancy model. Mainstreaming conservation in national development. This is a pet thing of mine. Because I think for too long conservation has been over there. It's depended on the goodwill of people. Outside of maybe Kenya, conservation needs to be mainstream. We're lucky that we've just gone through a process of devolved government in Kenya. So we now got county governments. County governments are bringing in legislation for conservation as we speak. So suddenly conservation is up there with education, with healthcare, with security. And it's a mainstream part of county government development. Having done that, we've changed the whole environment. I close that this is really, it's common sense. Everything I shared with you, there's no magic in this. It's simple common sense. It's scalable. You can see how scalable it is. It's exportable. We could go to South America, find a community, a poor community, living off the land with some wildlife. I'm absolutely convinced that this NRT model will be moved out of Kenya in an effective way and made relevant for that country and have the same impact. And it's relevant. Wendy, got a little video. So in closing, we're all about elephants. We've got this wonderful community-owned elephant sanctuary in northern Kenya. San Diego have been absolutely fundamental to improving the skills here. But I thought it would be nice to end on some